Hello, fifth grade. This is Mr. Jimenez. I am coming to you from home because unfortunately I am out today. I know. I'm so sorry for missing out today. But we got to sweat the small stuff. We got to show grit. And here I am. And I'm going to go ahead and record this lesson for you so that you can be on your best for the next day. Okay, I will see you back on Friday. So today we are discussing 5.5C. We are reviewing so that we can get ready for our STAR test. Before we do that, let's take a minute to write how we're feeling today, okay? Since I'm not there in class, I want you to send me a message and I can see how you're feeling, okay? If you're following instructions, then tomorrow morning I should have 109 messages in my inbox from every single one of you. All right, so personally, I'm feeling very green today. I'm feeling very chill because I'm very relaxed right now. I had a very restful nap and I'm feeling very, very good. So that's how I'm feeling. I want you to take the next minute to write me how you're feeling. Again, remember to send me a message so that I know that you're actually watching the video. Okay, you have 1 minute starting now. "45 seconds. "30 seconds. And 20. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you for sending your message, and we're going to move on. All right, even though I am not at school today, I expect you to follow these expectations for our substitute. Make sure that you are speaking like a scholar. That means you answer in complete sentences, you sit in slant, and then you raise your hand if you want to say something to our substitute. Make sure that you are dressed like a scholar. Remember, non-idea sweaters need to be off. If you are wearing them in class, make sure that they are off. And lastly, make sure that you are acting like a scholar. Be respectful and kind. Make sure to follow all instructions, and that will lead to your success. All right, now I want to go over some data from yesterday. Now, as always, our goal is 90, 60, 40. And if you look on the on the left-hand side, Princeton, Yale, and Stanford, you can see where each of you are given the day. All right, so all of us needed some work on question 1. It was the most missed question overall. And question 1 was over 5.5a, which is classifying matter. Okay, so let's take a look at question 1. And I want you to notice the students' work. So here are 2 samples from your class. These both are from Stanford. So Stanford, these are yours. There is an exemplar one, and there's a student work that could use some work. So take the next 30 seconds, and I want you to examine which student you believe did the best job, starting now. "20 seconds. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, boys and girls. So I see that a lot of us are leaning towards number 2. Okay, student 2 did do an exemplar job. Okay, some strategies that I'm seeing they did is they read the text and they circled iron ball. And when they circled iron ball at the top of the paragraph, they wrote that the balls are magnetic because they're made of iron. That is very important to this problem, as you'll see later on in the question. Okay. The question then says, which could not be used to separate the marbles from the ball bearings? I also see student 2 circled not. Student 1 also did that, which is very good. Not is very important. This tells us that we're looking for the answer choice that is incorrect. We're looking for the answer choice that does not belong. So, as you can see, I see student 2 went through each answer choice and put a check mark if it could be used to separate them, and an X if it was not used to separate them. Okay, and I see that they circled mesh green because that was very important. Okay, if I look back to student 1's work, some things that they could have improved on would be to read the text, because I don't see them finding that very important information in the paragraph at the top. And they could also go and use process of elimination like student 2. Okay, so the biggest misconception that I noticed while I was looking at your work is either 1, you did not know that the balls were magnetic because you were not reading the text. So it's very important that you do that. Or 2, we were ignoring the word not. Okay, and if you do that, then your answer would be incorrect. Okay, so as we look through these problems, I can see that the answer is G. Pour the mixture through a mesh screen. And the reason for that is because you cannot separate these balls using a mesh screen because they are both the same size. And because of that, they will not fit through a screen. They will both stay in the screen and nothing will really happen. All right. So take a good look at this problem. And we're going to take the next minute to fix it. Okay, we're going to fix our work. We're going to show those strategies. And you're going to use the next minute to make those corrections. Okay, ready and go. Remember, as you work, read the question carefully. The word not means that there is one answer choice that cannot be used to separate the mixture. "30 seconds left." I love that I'm going to see you guys circle the word not. I also see people reading the paragraph at the top much more carefully. We have 15 seconds. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome job. Ensure that you labeled our diagram, so you wrote that the balls are magnetic, and find in the paragraph where you saw that information. Also, pay special attention to those key words that will help us solve our problem. Okay? Very good. Awesome job, everyone. All right, now I want to go through and I want to talk about each of these organisms' observations. Okay? So, we discussed this a little bit yesterday, but I want to review again. How many of these are inherited traits and how many of these are learned? If you recall, inherited traits are traits which you are born with, and learned behaviors are things you learn later in life how to do. So, I want you to go through and label each of these as either inherited or learned. Let's give you 1 minute to practice what inherited and learned behaviors are. Go ahead and go. As you're working, make sure that you put an L for learned and an I for inherited. 45 seconds left. "30 seconds. "15 seconds. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's review. Starting from the very top, a colt being able to walk right after birth is an inherited trait because colts are born knowing how to walk. And that is how they know, or that's how we know that that is an inherited trait. Number 2, a student texting a message. That is a learned behavior because when you're born, you do not know how to send a text message. A spider spinning a web. That is an inherited trait because spiders are born knowing how to spin webs. If you have trouble remember that, I want you to think back to that scene in Charlotte's Web, the movie, how when Charlotte the spider passes away, her babies immediately start making their own webs. Next one is brown fur on a bear. Bears are born with brown fur. That means that their fur is an inherited trait. A child using a fork to eat is a learned behavior because as a child, no one taught you how to eat. You weren't born knowing how to eat using a fork and knife. Someone had to teach you. Otherwise, all babies wouldn't bottle feed. They would use forks and knives to drink their milk. Next one, a woman learning how to drive. Again, that is a learned behavior because if we didn't learn, then babies would be driving and you guys would be driving. And I know for a fact that at least the majority of you don't know how to drive. Okay, green leaves on a tree. That is an inherited trait because green leaves are born green. And finally, a lion jumping through a hoop. That is a learned behavior because lions have to be trained how to do that. Okay, so in total, you should have had 4 learned behaviors and 4 inherited traits. All right, take the next 5 seconds to make sure that you checked all of them in 5, 4, 3, 2, and let's keep going. All right, so we're going to start with some Frayer models that we're going to see today. So some words that we're going to see today, or one word that we're going to see today is the word demonstrate. Now, demonstrate, I sometimes have difficulty with this word because it's very big. It's a new word, and I know we see it a lot in science. If you don't recall, demonstrate means to show. So if I demonstrate a talent or if I demonstrate an experiment, that means that I am showing my experiment or I am showing my talent to someone. Here in the picture, I have a teacher demonstrating a science experiment to his students. I see they're not wearing masks though, so maybe they might want to put on some masks. Okay, so they are demonstrating because the teacher is showing his students how to do an experiment. A non-example would be this lady. This lady is not demonstrating anything because she is hiding. To hide is the opposite of demonstrate because you are not showing anything off. You are actually keeping things from people. Maybe it's yourself, maybe it's something else. I want you to take the next minute and I want you to come up with a sentence using the word demonstrate. I'll give you an example and then you can give me yours. My example says, in order to show the teacher that I know all of my science facts, I am going to demonstrate that on my exam by getting a 100. Take the next minute and I want you to use the word demonstrate in a sentence. Go ahead and go. Write it in the examples box. "45 seconds. "30. In 15. In 10. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very good. All right, our next vocabulary word is the word combine. Because today we're discussing mixtures and solutions, you will see the word combine a lot. To combine means to mix. When you combine chemicals, you can create reactions. When you combine eggs, flour, sugar, and water like we see in the picture, then you can make a cake. Now, the opposite or a non-example of combining is to separate. So for my non-example, I have a picture of a bell pepper that has been separated. Remember, to separate is the opposite of combine because combine means to mix. An example of using combine in a sentence is when you create a mixture, you combine two things into a container. For example, cookies and milk. All right, I want you to take the next minute and I want you to use the word combine in a sentence. Write it in the examples box shown below. Ready? And go. 50 seconds. 40. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you so much, and let's keep going. Now, remember, inherited traits and learned behaviors are different. We are born with inherited traits and instincts, and learned behaviors are obtained later in life. So, remember when you're doing this, that is the distinction between the two. You are born with inherited traits and instincts. However, learned behaviors are acquired later in life. So, for example, a colt wearing a saddle and bridle to carry someone on its back. Is that a learned behavior or is that an inherited trait? Give me your answer quickly in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You're right, this is a learned behavior because colts are not born knowing how to wear a saddle. They have to be taught. How about the ability to roll your tongue? Try to see if you can roll yours now. Is that a learned behavior or an inherited trait? Go ahead and tell me in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You're right. This is an inherited trait because you're either born knowing how to do this or you can't do it at all. Now, I want you to take the next next 2 minutes, and I want you to practice labeling these different scenarios. Use an I to label it as an inherited trait or an L to label it as a learned behavior. 2 minutes. Your time starts now. Go. A minute and a half. 1 minute. Thirty seconds. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very good. All right, let's move on. Now, to review yesterday's content, mixtures are a combination of two or more substances. For example, pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters in a bowl mixed together is a mixture because it's a combination of two or more substances that can easily be separated. A solution, however, is when something dissolves, it gets smaller and smaller until it no longer can be seen. Only solutions occur when a substance dissolves when it is mixed or combined. An example of this would be sugar and water, because sugar dissolves in water. So because it dissolves, that can be called a solution. Now, if you recall correctly, you can use one of the 6 tools seen here to separate your mixture or a solution. Strainers can be used to separate mixtures of very large things with very small things. For example, pebbles and water can be separated using a sieve because pebbles will stay inside the sieve and the water will flow out. Magnets can be used when a mixture contains a magnetic material inside of it. For example, a mixture of iron filings and salt can be separated using a magnet because the iron filings can be easily separated or taken out using the magnet. A hand is most useful when all substances in a mixture are solid. Also, if all of the substances are large in shape, your hand will be the best tool to use. For example, if you had a mixture of different types of cereals that might be all the same size, your hand might be a good tool to use. Density can also be used to separate mixtures based on their densities. For example, a mixture of quarks and marbles can be separated using density because quarks are less dense and marbles are more dense. We can also use filters to separate mixtures. Like strainers, filters can be used to separate objects by size. However, filters separate very extreme cases. What I mean by this is a substance must be very small in order to be successfully used or separated using a filter. For example, pepper and water can be separated using a filter because the pepper will be left behind in the filter, but the water will flow directly out. And finally, you can separate solutions using evaporation. While this process can be quite tricky and very lengthy, it is the best way and the only way to separate a solution when a substance dissolves in a liquid. For example, sugar and water can be separated using evaporation because water will evaporate and leave the solution, and the sugar will be left behind. Here are some mixtures. I want you to tell me, which of these can I separate using a magnet? Iron beads and wood beads, or plastic beads and wood beads? Take the next 10 seconds to decide. In 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice job. You're right. The answer is iron beads and wood beads because iron beads are magnetic. What about gravel and water? What tool can I use to separate gravel and water? 10 seconds to give me your answer. In 10, 5, in 2, and in 1. You're right. Gravel and water can be separated using a strainer or a sieve because gravel will remain in the sieve and the water will fall right out. Lastly, we have maple syrup and water. I know that maple syrup is soluble because it is mainly made up of sugar. What tool can be used to separate this mixture? In 10, in 5, 3, 2, and 1. Very good. This solution can be separated using evaporation because maple syrup is soluble in water. Here we have it. Evaporation can separate water and salt and water and sugar. Now, I want us to watch the following video, and after we watch this video, I want you to answer the questions on the pear deck. Watch as this teacher shows us what he does when he mixes water and a powdered drink mix.
So here I've taken some orange powdered drink and I've dissolved it in some water to create this orange solution. So here's your question. How can I separate this solution back out and get the powder away from the water? Take a minute, discuss that with your classmates, and I'll be back to talk about the answer. So one idea that may have come up during your discussion is using a filter. But you can see that as I take my solution and I pour it through this filter, that it stays orange. Nothing's being separated. That's because filters are used to separate water from insoluble compounds, things that won't dissolve. But because this orange powder is dissolved in the water, this filter is just not going to work. Because the orange powdered drink mix is soluble and dissolved in this water, in order to separate this mixture again, I need to remove the water. And I'll do that by placing it on a hot plate and evaporating the water away. So now that all of the water has evaporated away, I'm left with just that orange powdered drink mix left. So I was able to separate out the solution where a soluble substance had been dissolved in water by evaporating away the water. And that's how I would separate any kind of solution where a soluble substance had been dissolved inside water. I'm sure this is what you and your classmates came up with. Keep up the great work. I'll see you next time.
All right, everyone. So, now I want you to write these answers. Let's look at these questions. Question 1 says, what physical property of water changed when mixed with the powdered mix? Take the next 30 seconds to write your response. Starting now. Ready and go. In 30. 15. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You're right. The taste and color of the water changed when you mixed in the powdered mix. What physical property of the powder changed with the water? What changed with the powder? Take the next 30 seconds to write a response. Ready and go. In 30. In 20. In 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You're right. The texture of the powdered mix changed. The color slightly changed as well. Finally, answer, how can we separate the powder away from the water? Answer that in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very good. You can separate the powder away from the water using evaporation. This will remove the water and leave the powder behind. Very good, boys and girls. Now what you're going to do is you're going to work on Illuminate to complete your independent practice and exit ticket. They will both be on the same form, but will be graded individually. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me tomorrow, or you can ask your substitute who is in the class now. I'll see you later, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everyone.